Welcome to Mediaspace Members Daily. We bring you exclusive interviews from our leadership group and other professional influencers within the media, marketing, gov, tech community globally. Today I have with me Julia Middleton, founder of Common Purpose and Women Emerging from Isolation. Hi Julia, how are you?
I'm good.
How do you see the leadership challenges specifically in the media, tech and government?
Hard to pull out a short answer to that one because there are so many challenges. I think of all of them, I would choose how do you resist the temptation to think that the kind of power and authority that is currently given to many leaders is not going to continue to be given to them. You know, in times of crisis, leaders can get very used to having considerable authority, considerable power, considerable ability to drive things through. And they can get a little bit used to that and forget that actually it's going to stop at some stage. And at that stage, they're going to have to start using influence rather than authority. And they're going to have to bring people around them again as they used to. I think that if they fail to do that, trust will be eroded. You know, trust is anybody in media knows this better than I do, and sadly I don't think most people in government know it these days, but you know, trust is a very, very elegant asset to have. It's an enormously valuable one. It's hard to win and easy to lose. And if leaders don't spot the moment when they've got to stop throwing their weight around and have to take people with them again, I think there will be a trust problem and we will become again ungovernable and unmanageable. I think that inherent in all of that is the real issue as to whether you appeal to the short term or the medium to long term. In the short term, you know, a government should be appealing mostly in the world to people in the Western world particularly, but across the world, they should be appealing to people of my age. I'm 62. I've got a lot of demographic power, a lot of democratic power, and I am, as a generation, quite frightened about the way the world is going. So appealing to my fears is very successful if you're a leader or if you're into communication.
Has the COVID crisis brought any opportunities in this area?
You know, it's hard to talk about opportunities when there is such enormous misery in the world as a result of both a health and an economic crisis. So it's hard and almost heartless to talk about opportunities, but you know, any real shuffle, any sort of shake of the way things are, inevitably means there are opportunities. There are opportunities not to go back to the old ways. And, you know, after most disasters, it's the cockroaches that reappear first. So, you know, those of us who aren't cockroaches are going to have to be a little bit faster than normal to make sure that it isn't just the cockroaches that reappear. And if we want to move on to new opportunities that make the world slightly better, rather than reversing it by 20 years, then we are going to have to be fast, and we're going to have people's trust and take them with them. So, but there will be opportunities. I think the opportunities mostly will be for people who can convene people, who can get the left and the right to realize that they have more in common than they thought, to get the private sector and the public sector to actually figure out how cleverly they're going to pull out of this, for men and women to actually decide that they can work together rather than patronizing each other or talking behind each other's backs or knocking each other down. I think that most of the big opportunities will be complex, addressing complex problems that cross boundaries. And I think that the leaders who can convene people across boundaries of sectors, of specialisms, of backgrounds, of beliefs, whatever it is, the people who can convene, I think, will be able to grab this. Well, firstly, they'll see the opportunities and then grab them. I mean, I would argue that some of the people who moved fastest, interesting, I was watching something the other day, you know, some of the fastest corporate boards that moved quickest and understood what was about to hit us in, let's say, January, February, are boards that had people from the East and the West, developing and developed world on them, so that they were seeing the whole story, not just their geographical bit. And I think people actually also who were not on 5 corporate boards, they were on 2 corporate boards and 1 government body and 1 NGO board or something like that, so that they had a mixture of voices that they were listening to. And I think that you will see that ahead. It's the people who can convene and pull people across. And it has to be said, I personally believe that, there's a real opportunity for women here. Most of the language of leadership, if you look at it, was written by men. And I don't know how you feel about it, but certainly I feel, it took me a long time to accept that I was a leader, because I didn't actually like most of the language around the word leadership. I had to find my own language that made sense to me around leadership before I admitted that I could lead people. I think there is an opportunity for women to reflame leadership now, because there's a lack of trust in the existing models of leadership.
What's your advice for leaders, particularly in the media space, going forward?
I wonder if the media space almost deliberately is blind to how much power they have. Because if they were less blind, I think that they would have to hold some responsibility for it. I think everybody in the media space needs to wake up to it. I remember at one stage being at a meeting of a lot of the great giants, the founders of the social media world. I remember sitting there and listening, and it made me realize that many of them had really very high ideals when they started their organizations. They genuinely believed that they were going to make society infinitely better. And it was almost like watching people who were horrified that it hadn't happened. And my sense, this sounds a little arrogant, so forgive me, my sense of watching them and thinking, how naive can you possibly be? This is an enormous amount of power. It had to be used much more carefully than you have. Looked after it. So I see more and more people in the media space begin to talk about, what is not responsible business or responsible government, but actually what's responsible media. And I'm going to look forward to seeing more of those voices and seeing what they can achieve.
Thank you, Julia, for joining us today. It was very insightful to hear from you. Stay tuned for the next episode of Mediaspace Members Daily. In the meantime, connect with us at Mediaspace.global.